So now that you've spined your rod blank, the next step is going to be handle assembly. This is Rod Building 101. Let's start by talking about what you'll need for handle assembly. We have your handle. For this setup, we're going to have cork, split grip, and this kit was a casting rod. So you'll have a casting reel seat, you'll have your rear grip, your foregrip, your fighting butt with a butt cap, winding checks. You're going to need something to glue the reel seat and the handle system to the rod blank. So we have a two-part epoxy. We have hand reamers because we have to make sure to ream out the inside diameter of your handle to match the outside diameter of your rod blank. I grab a piece of cardboard. This is what I'm going to use to mix my two-part epoxy on it. I have some mixing sticks. I even went through and dug up some popsicle sticks. It helps with the mixing of the two-part epoxy. And of course, I always have the masking tape and the China marker handy. Also, for cleanup of a few messes that might be from epoxy or finish throughout, I'm always making sure I have some rubbing alcohol and paper towels on my workbench throughout the entire building process. Let's go ahead and lay it out, and we're going to mark it on our blank with our China marker to give us a roadmap of building this custom rod. We're going to start with a fighting butt and a butt cap. You can leave these put together. We're just going to give a rough marking on the rod blank to where it's at. We're going to lay down fighting butt, and we're just going to mark it here at the top of the fighting butt. Now, if you notice, there is a label on this fishing rod that we will need to remove. This is where the rubbing alcohol comes in, and maybe even a popsicle stick. It'll help get that rod label off. But for now, we're going to mark the fighting butt. For your rear grip is going to fall in this section here. We have to decide where do we want that rear grip to be. Here's your rear grip. This is about 3 3/4 inch cork. The rear grip is going to fall in here, and it's also going to guide your reel seat into place. The distance between the fighting butt and your reel seat and rear grip is always a very common question. We like to measure from the back of the reel seat. So where the back of this reel seat meets your rear grip, measure from that point to the end of the rod. A very good common length for a 7-foot medium heavy casting rod, which this one is going to be 10 inches. If you're a little taller, it might be 10.5 inches. If you're a little shorter, it might be a little shorter than 10 inches. But a great starting point is 10 inches. Another kind of pro tip, if you have a fishing rod at home that you absolutely love, same action, same power, maybe it's the same length, measure that handle length with the tape measure to the back of the reel seat to the fighting butt end, and copy that measurement over to this custom rod. From the end of the fighting butt to the top of the rear grip, not the bottom, measure to the top and mark at the bottom. So we are going to measure to the top at 10 inches, as I mentioned before, measure to the top because that's where the reel seat and the rear grip touch, and then we're going to mark at the bottom. And then we can set this aside. Your reel seat will come in after your rear grip, so technically you don't have to mark your reel seat. Same with your foregrip. Your foregrip is kind of just a smaller version than your rear grip and has a little bit thinner taper on it. This is going to sit down right on the top of your reel seat, just like that. So technically, measure a fighting butt, measure where your rear grip is going to sit, and your reel seat and your foregrip are going to fall right into place. Since this is rod building, and you can build your custom rod any way you want, some of you might have opted for a full-length grip and not the split grip as I showed a minute ago. It's actually easier. We have here a full-length cork grip, rear grip with a butt cap. So the butt cap, just like with the fighting butt before, caps right on. The good news is this handle length is already predetermined. There's no measuring, there's no math. All you have to do is lay this handle length alongside of your rod blank, take your China marker, and make a mark. Then your reel seat, this is a spinning seat. Notice there's no trigger on here, so this is a spinning reel seat. Your spinning seat will lay right into place, and then your foregrip, just as before, will come right in on top of your reel seat. And then you'll be left with handle, reel seat, and your full length handle section. This can be cork, it can be carbon fiber, it can be a polymer grip, EVA, it can be anything you want, but this rear section of a full length grip, that's exactly how you're gonna mount it up. Before we begin reaming any grip material, there is a right and a wrong way that this fighting butt is to slide down the rod blank. I know it seems a little self-explanatory, but the fighting butt is to slide down to the butt section of the rod blank, and the cap comes on like this. You can notice there is a taper here, just like you've seen on any other split grip fishing rod. Make sure that when you begin reaming, you ream from the back of the fighting butt, because as you ream from the back of the fighting butt, you will actually be creating a slightly larger hole, and it will actually match the taper of the rod blank as you slide the fighting butt down. So take your tape reamer, size small, and that's going to match up with most cork sizes. Typical cork sizing for an inner diameter is 250, so it's a 1/4 inch. The tape reamer, size small, fits that perfectly. And we just ask that as you're using the tape reamer, try to stay along the same plane as much as possible. And we do that by rotating the tape reamer and rotating the grip. So we're reaming and rotating the grip and reaming and rotating the grip. That will allow you to create the straightest bore through the inside of all of your fighting butt, rear grip, foregrip, so that your grip material will come out nice and even, and it will sit straight on your rod blank. So here is a little reaming tip when working with your cork grips. You'll notice as the cork slides down the rod blank, it's going to fit into place. But as with so many other things, you want to measure twice and cut once. So we ream a little at a time, and we continue to check our progress. Here, the cork has come to a snug stop, and we still have quite a bit to go to get it to the end where this fighting butt should stop. So we do not want to force this cork with any kind of pressure down over that distance, because you can crack the cork. All we do is slide it back off the rod blank, and then we'll ream it a little bit more and check it again. I think we've got it reamed about where it needs to be, and it falls really, really close. I mean, we're looking at 1/8 of an inch here, and with just a slight turn of the rod blank, and you want to support the entire fighting butt. When you dry fit, check it there. It's perfect. And then your butt cap will come on there. So that dry fit is an absolute perfect fighting butt fit, and we'll slide this back off. I have the EVA version here. I have also reamed and checked the EVA fighting butt. With the EVA fighting butt, you can see it stops considerably farther away from the end of the rod blank than the cork one did. The reason that we can get away with that is EVA, being a slightly softer material, it has some stretch in it. So if it stops a little bit farther from where it needs to be, remember, you will be adding 2-part epoxy, and you can even slide it down to check the fit, and it's still good to go. So this EVA grip can stop a little farther down the rod blank, and you can still slide it into place. Again, don't force it, but you can slide it a little farther, and you're still good to go with EVA. So now that we have dry fit all of our handle components from the fighting butt, the rear grip, the reel seat, and the foregrip, it's time to start gluing these up. There's a couple things to pay attention to. We've already talked about the orientation of each grip piece, but we have winding checks. Included in a lot of the rod kits are going to be winding checks. And for rod builders out there, a winding check is a rubber, plastic, or metal, small modified like a cone. That piece sits on each side of your grip sections that are exposed to the blank. What that does is that kind of cleans up the edges around your grip past your reaming. So it makes a really clean and nice look transition from a grip down to the rod blank. So let's get all this going. First, we're going to mix up our 2-part epoxy. The epoxy we're using has about a 40-minute working time. There are 5-minute epoxies out there, but please hear me when I say 5 minutes is awfully fast. Buy the 40-minute working time 2-part epoxy. Now we're going to take the 2-part epoxy. There is a resin and a hardener. These need to be mixed in a 50-50 ratio, 1-to-1 ratio. It doesn't have to be so exact that you have to weigh it on a scale. You can just unscrew the top and either use a mixing stick or a popsicle stick. I will grab the popsicle stick and I am going to mix it on a piece of cardboard that I actually just cut off the box that all of this came in from Mudhole. So it makes it quite easy. So I'm going to take out some hardener and I'm not going to reuse that stick. I do not want to mix the resin and hardener in these containers. I want to mix it right here. So now we're going to open up the resin, take a new stick, and we're going to get about the same size resin as we did hardener. Now we're going to put that down on the cardboard. You can see here, it's about the same amount. Again, we don't have to weigh this. Judging by just looking at it, that's a good 50-50 mixture. I am just going to take one of these off and throw it away. I'll use this one and we're going to mix it up. The mixing time on this, you will notice it blend of the colors and turn one solid color. This is not something that you have to mix for 5 minutes or 2 minutes. You can probably get away with 30 to 60 seconds and you can see the color becoming almost the color of the cardboard. So now this is good to go for about 20 to 30 minutes before it really starts setting up. Now we have plenty of time to make sure we get our winding checks, our rear grip section, our fighting butt, and everything together. With everything right here within an arm's length, I'm going to start with a fighting butt. We have already talked about the orientation of the fighting butt on the rod blank. We've already dry fit it. It's already properly reamed. So we're going to leave a little section here. You do not have to put the entire world of epoxy onto this section. It is reamed properly and it's a snug fit. And actually, less epoxy has a better bond than a bunch of globbed epoxy on the end of a rod blank. So we're going to take some epoxy. And if you notice, this is a paste style epoxy. It will stay where you put it. It's not going to run off the rod blank. We're going to put a light coat. One of the tips, coat the length of the rod blank that is the same width or slightly larger than the handle piece that you're applying. We're now going to turn the rod blank and spin it as we slide it down. The rod blank needs to sit flush with the rear tenon on this fighting butt. That extra little bit, we're going to use the mixing stick. And this is going to be just the right amount of epoxy for our butt cap. Take your butt cap. I kind of make sure that the epoxy gets into the butt cap. You can also use your mixing stick. And I take it and I twist it as it goes on. and then these are going to mate up. You might get a little bit of a vapor lock, and make sure that that rear grip, or that fighting butt, excuse me, is far enough down on the rod blank. Now you can see they mate up perfectly. This is the time to take some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel and wipe that clean so you don't have that unsightly cured epoxy on your grips. Right here on the table, I keep some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. It's very easy. You do not need much. Just a little on a paper towel. And you can see as I wipe around the edge of the fighting butt and butt cap, it wipes the epoxy clean. Now real quick, before we move on, I'm going to take 2 pieces of masking tape. We'll say 4 to 6 inches each. 1 piece is going to go on the end of the butt cap, and you're going to fold it up the fighting butt, okay? So it's going to hold the butt cap against the fighting butt. The second piece is going to make sure that the first piece does not come off. I am also going to leave a tag end, and I'm going to fold that tag end to create a flag, so it's easy just to tear off. This is like the flag from the rod blank spine of earlier. Moving on, all we now have to do is work our way gluing up rear grip, reel seat, foregrip. But I talked earlier about winding checks. Your winding checks have to go on top of your fighting butt and behind the rear grip before you bring the rear grip down. This is going to get slid down almost to where it touches. Then I take just a very little bit of epoxy and come around the rod blank. It really doesn't need much. This is not something that is easily damaged or torn off. It's just going to hold it in place and glue it tight. When you get good at it, you don't even have to clean excess epoxy off. Now, remember, there is a second winding check. You're not done with your winding checks. Right here on the back side of your rear grip. This one has to face the opposite direction. So the flat side is now facing this way. Remember, we have already marked where the rear grip will stop. The winding check will be just below that mark. The reason I do that is because when this rear grip slides down, you're going to push epoxy as it locks into place, wipe it off, and then slide the winding check back here to mate up with it. And it makes a very clean, nice split grip handle section. Now I suggest, as you work through building this handle and gluing it, glue your fighting butt and your butt cap, glue your rear grip, double check that your winding checks are in the split grip, and set this blank aside. Let these grips cure so that as you're working on the rest of this rod blank, you don't move these accidentally or push them out of place. So now we're going to let the rear grip, the fighting butt, and the butt cap epoxy cure, and we'll come back and we'll do our reel seat.